Hi everyone, let's have a look at the fastest gaming keyboard as claimed by SteelSeries. This is the Apex Pro TKL wireless, the 2023 version. Alright guys, this is what you find inside the box: the keyboard itself, the palm rest, the USB Type-C Type-A cable, the receiver, the adapter that you can use with the USB Type-C receiver in case you don't have any Type-C ports on your computer. You can do so, connect it with a cable. On this side the cable, on the other side the receiver, and this is the USB Type-A cable to connect to your computer in case you don't have any USB Type-C free or you don't have it at all. This is the keycap puller, and these are some instructions. Alright, let's talk about materials and design. All this part here is made in aluminum, as you can see, so this part here on the back is in plastic. The design is a classical design of TKL keyboards. We have here 35 more or less centimeters on this side and almost 13 centimeters on this side. On the back of the keyboard here we have these rubbers here, so when you have long gaming sessions the keyboard won't move in any positions. And here we have the legs. You can adjust them into different levels. And on this side here there is the display. This is an OLED display. We'll talk about the display later. And here this is the multimedia scroll wheel, and this button here that you can go back on the menu. You can connect the keyboard to your computer or to your Mac using the wireless receiver or the Bluetooth. As we can see, you can switch on this side here for the wireless receiver and on this side for the Bluetooth, and in the middle the keyboard will go off. And you can use also, of course, with a USB Type-C cable provided, so you can charge and use the keyboard at the same time. You can use this combo of keys to connect. The Bluetooth is the SteelSeries key, enter, and 1, 2 or 3, so you can choose which device you want to connect, because this keyboard can connect to 3 different Bluetooth devices. While connecting with a Bluetooth can be useful with 3 different devices. If you want to game and if you want to have those performances at the same that you have with a wired version of this keyboard, I suggest you guys to use the wireless receiver, which I find it to be, in terms of connectivity and in terms of ranges. Of course you don't have to go like 10 meters away from your system, but anyway, if you are, let's say, in between 2 or 3 meters from your desk or from your screen, whatever, the performances of the connection are going to be basically with zero latency. Now once you connect the receiver, the keyboard will be recognized and you are going to be able to use it without using any software and whatever. Anyway, I suggest you to download all the GG software. I don't know, that's a strange name. And on that software you have the engine part of that software, so you can customize all the lighting and actuation points. The app will give you more details on customization, and you can customize more deeply all those settings on the keys and all the lighting, the RGB lighting and whatever else, the macro and whatever else. Before moving on with the rest of the features of the SteelSeries Apex Pro TKL wireless, if you are new here, please consider subscribing, hit the like button and enable the notifications. Thanks a lot for your support. Now the keycaps are double shot PBT and you can remove it with the tool included on the box. So underneath the keycaps we have the Omnipoint switches. This is a second version of these switches. These are particular switches developed by SteelSeries, and these have a crazy adjustment starting from 0.2 millimeters up to 3.8 millimeters, which is a crazy adjustment for being one of the most reactive keyboards that you can have. You can use also some other switches like the 2-in-1 action keys. So using the GG software you can set certain keys to have this kind of 2-in-1 action. So if you press it a little bit, it's going to, let's say, walk, for example, in a game, and if you press it all the way down, it's going to run. I have tried it in Call of Duty and I have to say this is pretty useful. So as we can see, the switches are crazy customizable with actuation point and are silent enough, I have to say. So let me make a quick sound test. One of the nice features of this keyboard is this small OLED display here, so you can use it as a status display to show the battery, for example. It's a little bit small, the battery here, but anyway. And these are the status in case you have the caps activated or in case you have the numbers and so on. You can enter the menu of the configuration of this display by pressing this button here for 3 seconds, and then you can go through all the settings. If you go in illumination, you can decide only the brightness here. In other keyboards, for example Corsair or other keyboards, you have also the option by setting the RGB lighting here or some presets of RGB light. This is not happening here. Hopefully they are going to implement this. So you can decide the brightness here. You can scroll and decide which kind of brightness you want. This button here is used also for going back to the other menus or exiting completely the settings. Moving on, we have the macros, so you can click here, and if you want to, you can record or delete the macros. And here you can set activation without opening the GG software and so on. The other menu is profile, so if you have different profiles, you can load the profile here, save the profile, or choose which keys are going to activate the profile. You can set the profiles from the GG software, we'll get to that in a minute also. And from here you can decide which of those profiles you want to load to the keyboard. The keyboard itself can store up to 5 profiles in the internal memory, so you can set up profiles and you can use this keyboard also in other computers if you want to. So here we have the display, and then we can choose the timeout, how you want timeout of the display, to how many minutes you want it to be. You cannot turn it off. This is something strange. You can decide it to 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever else. Then we can move to the brightness of the display. As you can see, now it's going to be less brightness, almost you cannot see it. The lock indicator are those small icons that you can see here on this part here when you press the caps or when you press other buttons. Then we have the battery indicator, which of course is useful, and I recommend you to turn it on every time. So here in the OLED display you can see also other informations if you want to, but you have to go through the GG software. These are some basic settings which always are useful, but if you want more and if you want to see more or some status and some other stuff, you have to use the GG software, so we will get to that in a minute. So the RGB, I find it to be really pretty standard from what I can see from other RGB keyboards, and the illumination is pretty consistent in all the keys. You don't have nothing strange. Also you can see clearly all the letters here and everything else. You can change all the RGB lighting from the GG software, from the prism, it's called the submenu if I'm not wrong. We will get to that in a minute. And also in dark you can see it's pretty visible. In terms of battery life, I have to say that I managed to reach about 1 week with using it kind of hybrid usage, let's say half of the time with the RGB off and the other half of the time with RGB set to 50% more or less. And with those settings I managed to get almost 1 week of the battery life of the keyboard, which I find it to be not bad. I mean, once in a week you can charge the keyboard and you can use it while charging with a USB Type-C cable, and that's enough. For charging it requires almost 6 hours to fully charge, more or less. That will depend of course on which port of you are going to connect the cable for charging the keyboard. So guys, once you download and install the software, you have to move into the engine tab, and here you have all the information about your keyboard, the battery, and which kind of connection is be using actually to connect to your system. And here you have the profiles. We will get to that in a minute. Let's move to the prism submenu, which is the RGB effects that you can apply to this keyboard. You can choose plenty of RGB effects. You can choose in which layers and which keys, and you can customize it really. You can select which keys you want certain effects to be activated. So moving in the tab apps, this is something interesting. You can basically choose to show some certain information on the small OLED display. For example, let's move to the system monitor. Here we can choose which data to show on the small OLED display of the keyboard, which I find it useful. Let's say you are gaming and you want to see if the temps are okay or if certain settings are okay. So you can choose the layout here. You can decide, for example, percentage and whatever else. All this information are grown in the small OLED display, so you can check whatever information you need. Remember to enable the system monitor here, otherwise you're not going to see nothing on the OLED display. And be sure that you have activated the proper profile on the keyboard, otherwise you are not going neither to see nothing else. The tab library is when you can add your games and customize the games with the keyboard. This is something I usually don't use because I prefer all the settings to change them and to find my own settings on the game menu itself instead of using here. NVIDIA have something similar. I don't use this kind of menus. I just prefer to do on my own. So moving here on the first tab, let's click on the name of the keyboard, and this will open the menu when you can customize all the settings. Here you can, for example, choose what one key is doing on playing once, playing n times, is kind of macro, something like that. You can record also certain when you type on certain keys. Here we have the actuation that you can change on the display, but you can change it also here. So you can choose certain keys to have let's say a higher actuation or lower actuation depending on your needs or depending on your games or whatever. As you can see on this image here, only these keys here I have the Omnipoint switching enabled, and the other one have the Cherry MX keys if I'm not wrong. I would have preferred all the keys to have the Omnipoint switches because you might need certain keys for using certain scenarios. I don't understand why they have choose this kind of layout, but anyway, that this is. So the dual bindings is the submenu that you can set up the certain keys to act as a 2-in-1 key. So let's say you want to move forward, you want to walk forward, forward and then you want to run forward. So you are using the same key allowing you to do two actions. Then you can go to the dual actuation and you can choose again this key here, and you can choose what kind of actuation to set up first. And then the second one is, we can see this is the, for example, it's a lower actuation and a higher actuation. That depends on, of course, on your needs and on the game you are playing. The meta bindings are the macro editor, so you can activate ARM macros, can record macros and use those macros. Here we have the OLED settings. You can choose the languages, you can choose a sleep timer here, whatever. I've set it at 15 minutes. You can choose between 5 minutes and 16 minutes. This is something strange because keyboard itself you can choose up to 5 seconds if I'm not wrong, and here you don't have that chance to choose seconds. You have the lowest is 5 minutes. Illumination smart mode dims up to 10% when key presses is detected and ripples when not in use. This is something, I don't know, might be useful or not. I usually don't use these settings. I just use a sleep timer, which is more comfortable with me. And the low battery lighting mode, I leave it at default breathing red, so you are going to notice if the battery is low on your keyboard. Don't forget to save by clicking here, otherwise you are going to lose all the settings. And here we can choose all the profiles. We have 5 profiles. These are onboard profiles, so whatever you are changing here is going to be applied whenever you are connecting, for example, the keyboard to another system, to your laptop or to your gaming console and whatever else. If I'm not wrong, this is going to work only with wireless receiver. It's not going to work via Bluetooth. Remember also to leave it open, the software running in the background, otherwise certain settings might not be applied to the keyboard. There are 2 versions of the Apex Pro TKL. One is the wired one, which costs 190, and the other one is the wireless, which costs 250. You can choose between 5 different layouts. The only difference here is one, you can use it with a USB Type-C cable only, and the other one you can use it with a wireless receiver dongle or on even Bluetooth connecting to 3 different devices. That's all for the review of the SteelSeries Apex Pro TKL Wireless 2023 version. This is a fantastic gaming keyboard, and not only, but it also is precise and fast, and it has some interesting features such as the adjustable Omni switches, OLED info display, and the double action keys. The price is important for being only a TKL wireless keyboard, but if you want one of the best TKL keyboards, then go with it. If you like this video about the SteelSeries Apex Pro TKL Wireless and found it helpful, please leave a thumbs up, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, and enable the notification bell. Thanks a lot for your support, and thanks for watching.